UFC 262, Oliveira versus Chandler takes place in only a matter of hours, and these are my last minute detailed predictions for every single fight on the card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight. But I'm not talking about style matchups. I'm not just going to say who I think is going to win based on their former opponent or their resume overall. I'm calling last minute detailed predictions, trying to tell you guys what finishing move is going to be used, what the scorecards are going to be, how each round is going to look. I'm going to give you an example with the early prelim opener of Christos Giagos versus Sean Soriano. I believe Christos Giagos is going to win this one, and I think he's going to win it by late round submission. I'm going to go with round 3, rear naked choke for Christos Giagos. He likes to go for takedowns in his bouts. I think he's going to use them here against Sean Soriano. I think we're going to have a bit of a wild first round between the pair of them. Soriano's going to do quite well. Christos Giagos is going to do quite well, and they're going to have a bit of a scrappy bout. In the second round, Christos Giagos is going to get Sean Soriano to the ground, who took the fight on short notice. Then you're going to start to see Christos Giagos start to pull ahead with the victory in the second round. Then the third round's going to come around, and the same thing's going to happen again. Both guys are going to look to trade in the early round. Christos Giagos is going to be able to get Sean Soriano to the ground in the third, and I think Sean Soriano is going to be too tired to do anything to defend, and a guy who usually doesn't get finishes is going to get one due to a short notice opponent with Christos Giagos. I think he'll get a third round rear naked choke finish on Sean Soriano due to exhaustion. Moving on up the card, Kevin Aguilar versus Tucker Lutz. You see what I mean now, guys? We're going with Tucker Lutz here, and I think it's going to be a very, very close decision that people are going to be a little bit torn over. I think that Tucker Lutz is going to win this one by not landing more shots per round on the feet. I don't see this being a grappling bout. I see this being a stand-up fight for all 3 rounds. I think Aguilar's going to minorly outland Tucker Lutz in every round, but I think Tucker Lutz is going to secure himself the victory by landing the bigger shots on Kevin Aguilar and having a couple of moments in each round where you've got Kevin Aguilar sort of semi-rocked, moving backwards, needing to reset, because I think Tucker Lutz has a little bit of a power advantage and a little bit of a chin advantage as well. So even though I believe that Kevin Aguilar is probably going to go out there in a stand-up bout and outstrike Tucker Lutz by around 3 or 4 strikes per round, I think Lutz is going to constantly land big shots in these exchanges and just show that he's the guy who's winning the bout in those exchanges as well by making Kevin Aguilar reset, get rocked, maybe get dropped here or there, who knows. I just think Tucker Lutz going to win this one based on power and durability, and Aguilar's just going to lose this one in the image of how the fight is going, whether or not he is outlanding Tucker Lutz or not. I'm going with Tucker Lutz, unanimous decision, 29-28, but it's close. Moving on up the card, Gina Mazany versus Priscila Cachoeira. I'm going with Gina Mazany here. I think Priscila Cachoeira is going to come out and win herself the first round, barely. I think it's going to be a very close scrap in that first round. Priscila Cachoeira's got some power in her hands. I think Mazany's going to have to respect that in the first round, and I think Priscila Cachoeira is going to have a little bit of success, landing some good shots against Gina Mazany. But Gina Mazany trains under James Krause, therefore mid-fight adjustments are going to be made, and I think she's going to pull ahead in the second and third round over Priscila Cachoeira and just win little moments against the cage where she's kneeing the thigh of Priscila Cachoeira, landing shots to the body against the cage as well, taking down Priscila Cachoeira here and there in those later rounds, doing better on the feet in those later rounds as well. And I think it's just going to be the first round looks a little bit risky for Gina Mazany. Then as the rounds go on, she's going to start landing her jab. I think her conditioning's going to be a little bit better, and she's going to win a lot of moments against the cage in the clinch because it's women's MMA and they're going to be against the cage for about half the fucking fight. Moving on up the card, Andrea Lee versus Antonina Shevchenko. Now, I just said the last one's women's MMA and they're going to be against the cage a lot. I feel like this one's going to be an absolute barn burner, and I'm going to pick Antonina Shevchenko by split decision. I think that's what's going to happen here. I'm going to call a split decision. Last split decision I called was, I believe, Luana Carolina against Pinheiro or something like that, and I actually got it correct. It was a split decision for no reason. This one, I think Antonina Shevchenko is going to deserve a win, but Andrea Lee, I think, is going to outland her in certain exchanges, but I think Antonina Shevchenko is going to score takedowns in this bout towards the end of the rounds, and that's going to give her a real good look in the judge's eye, and she's going to land a couple of total strikes. So even though the significant strike stats may be in favour of Andrea Lee in each round, I think Antonina Shevchenko is going to go out there, take her down at the end of each round after a pretty competitive back and forth on the feet, where maybe Andrea Lee is landing 1 or 2 2 more shots than she is because of her reach advantage. And I think at the end of those rounds, Antonina Shevchenko is going to secure them by getting a takedown, landing a bunch of total strikes, and maybe a couple of significant ones at the end of each round. And I think she's going to win this one by split decision. Maybe there's a round where she doesn't get the takedown at the end and Andrea Lee starts to pull ahead in a third or something like that. But I think Antonina Shevchenko is going to secure the first 2 rounds very closely, with big takedowns at the end of those rounds and mixing in her grappling well. Moving on up the card, Jordan Wright versus Jamie Pickett. I'd love to pick Jordan, but I want to be right, and I'm picking Jamie Pickett. Okay, I'm going to go with him by second round TKO here. I think he's a little bit too much conditioning for Jordan Wright. I think Jordan Wright is going to have a very good first round, throw a couple of spinning kicks here and there, a couple of good kicks, who knows, and then Jamie Pickett's going to start to pick it up as the fight goes on. He's a very tough man. I trust him to make it out of the first round against Jordan Wright, and Jordan Wright, man, I think he throws like something like, 5 wheel kicks around. Like, the guy's style is not meant to go long. We saw that against Buckley. I think Jamie Pickett is going to pick up where Buckley left off, where Anthony Hernandez left off, and start pressuring Jordan Wright against the cage in the second round and really start to piece him up with those combos. And I think it's going to be a second round standing TKO for Jamie Pickett. I think Jordan Wright's going to be covering up, looking to swing back, but the referee's going to have to jump in because Jamie Pickett's just landing too many shots. Doesn't have significant KO power, but I see a standing TKO finish for Jamie Pickett in the second round. Once Jordan Wright slowed down a little bit, Jamie Pickett's going to put his foot on the pedal, and he's going to go for him in the second and get the TKO win. Moving on up the card, Lando Vannata versus Mike Grundy. I'm going to go with Lando Vannata here. And I think I'm going to pick him by, I'll say late first round TKO. I think he's going to have a real power advantage over Mike Grundy in the early part of this fight. And I think that's going to be a real advantage. Coming down from the lightweight division. Lando Vannata, I think, has got a real good style against Mike Grundy. He's got amazing takedown defense. So I see Mike Grundy maybe going for a couple of takedowns in that first round. Getting a couple of them stuffed because he's a little bit of a smaller guy out there. And Lando Vannata's takedown defense is pretty supreme. So I can see Lando Vannata sprawling on a couple of takedown attempts of Grundy, defending them well, coming back in the later part of the round. Grundy's not going to like that he hasn't been able to get Lando Vannata to the ground, so he's going to seem a little bit mentally defeated, in my opinion, in that first round, and I think Lando Vannata's going to put him away with a big shot in the first round, and I'll say by TKO finish, Lando Vannata gets this one done at the very end of the first round. I'll say with like a fake low, like he's going to the body, and then just comes straight upstairs with a right hand, and down goes Mike Grundy against the cage, looks up at Lando, and Lando just goes in there to finish the job with a couple of extra shots. Referee steps in. Late first round TKO for Lando Vannata. Moving on up the card, Jacare Souza versus Andre Muniz. I'm going with Andre Muniz by submission. I think he's going to submit Jacare. I'm going to say late first round submission for Andre Muniz. I am. I think Jacare is going to go out there, look to take him down, maybe fail early. I don't think Muniz is going to want to willingly go to the ground on bottom. I think Jacare is going to shoot some takedowns, maybe be getting out-jabbed a little bit on the feet with the reach advantage of Andre Muniz, who's landing a couple of shots on the feet against Jacare. Jacare's looking to swing forward. At the end of the round, I think Jacare's going to go for a bit more of a desperation-based takedown because he's not winning the round. I think Muniz is going to keep him at bay with that jab. He's got ridiculous reach for the division, especially compared to a guy like Jacare. And I think he's going to keep tagging that jab on Jacare, and Jacare's going to shoot for a takedown. And I think he's going to go to the ground at the end of the first, feel real comfortable in the last minute of the round, and I'm going to call Andre Muniz by armbar submission off bottom at the end of the first round. I really believe in this guy's jiu-jitsu. I know Jacare has probably better jiu-jitsu credentials, but Andre Muniz is the younger guy, way more athletic. I think that's going to favor him, and he's a massive guy on bottom as well. I think he's just going to be too fast for Jacare to react on the ground to, and I think he's going to latch up an arm triangle, and everyone's going to go crazy, even though Jacare's really old, and it's not really that impressive to beat him at this point. But I'm going to go Andre Muniz, submission, first round armbar. Moving on up the card, Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. Now it's cool. Fight of the night, 100%. 100%. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza is amazing. I think the first round of this bout, anyone who picked Shane Burgos is going to shit their pants. That's what I believe. I think Edson Barboza is going to be way too fast for him early in the first round, but the difference between Shane Burgos and a guy like Makwana Mirkani, I believe Shane Burgos, despite being outlanded by Barboza and maybe eating a couple of big shots on the chin and a couple of kicks to the body, he's not going to back off and reset and look to pump shots at range. He's going to keep putting the pressure on Edson Barboza, knowing that those powerful, speedy shots are going to start to slow down, are going to start to get a little bit softer, and I think at the end of the first round, we're going to see a dominant 10-9 round for Edson Barboza, just outlanding Shane Burgos quite significantly. I'll call it like a 30-20 on significant strikes. Pretty reasonable round for Edson Barboza. Looks like the faster man. Second round comes around. Start of the round, Edson Barboza is doing real good. This time, Burgos is starting to dig to the body a little bit, okay? And he started to chop to the legs in the first round as well, whereas Edson's really gone for the head of Shane Burgos. Burgos is going to start to rip to the body in the second round. After the first minute, when things slow down a little bit, he's going to start to land those body shots. He's going to start to land some more leg kicks. Edson Barboza is going to get sick of moving backwards. I think towards the end of the second round, Burgos is going to really start taking over that round. And I think he's going to win the last 3 minutes of the fight in the second round with Edson Barboza and secure himself that second round barely after a close 2 minutes at the start. Then in the third round, I believe Shane Burgos is going to walk down a very, very exhausted Barboza, take him down if he wants to, land those shots to the body, and I think he's going to get a 10-8 round in the third against Edson Barboza and score himself a 29-27. He's going to score himself a 29-27 unanimous decision win over Edson Barboza, losing the first round 10-9, securing the second round in a competitive round 10-9 to himself, then the 10-8 in the third, 29-27 Shane Burgos. I see the body shots landing in the second, and I see him landing all of the investment shots, whereas I see Barboza really headhunting with his punches in the first round, because Burgos is hittable, but he knows he's hittable, and he's got a granite chin, and he uses that in his favour. I think he wins this one as the fight goes on, 29-27 Shane Burgos. Moving on up the card, Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviane Araujo. I'm going to go with Katlyn Chookagian. I think she's going to win this one by 30-27 unanimous decision, and I think she outlands Viviane Araujo every single round at range with some kicks, some punches, and she makes all of those weird fucking noises that she makes during the fight as well. I'm betting on that, and I think she's going to beat Viviane Araujo as the fight goes on, unanimous decision. I don't really care about this. It's a good fight though. It's a good fight. I just think Viviane Araujo is going to lose this one based on kicks. That's honestly my opinion. She doesn't have many kicks. She seems to only have a 1-2. And I think that's going to be the downfall of her. I think Chookagian's going to be a little bit more variety-based. And she's going to win it by chopping at the legs, landing front kicks to the body, and some head kicks up high as well. Chookagian gets this one done, 30-27 unanimous decision, outlanding Araujo every single round. Moving on up the card, Matt Schnell versus Rogerio Bontorin. I'm going to go with Matt Schnell by submission now. I didn't have him by submission before, but after watching Rogerio Bontorin miss weight at bantamweight despite being a flyweight, they gave him a £10 allowance on this fight because of the short notice. He still couldn't make that weight. I'm going to go with Matt Schnell getting the job done by submission. I'll say in the third round. I'll say late second round. Guillotine submission for Matt Schnell. I do believe he gets it done over Rogerio Bontorin. Close stand-up exchanges on the feet while the fight lasts. Rogerio Bontorin swinging big hooks. Matt Schnell looking to land his jab and straight two. Close first round. Second round, Matt Schnell starts to take over a little bit. Starts landing some good shots to the body. Starts landing some good jabs as well on the face of Rogerio Bontorin, who's starting to swell up a little bit at the eye maybe at this point. Then Bontorin's going to shoot a bad takedown on Matt Schnell. Get guillotined in the first round. I'll call an arm-in guillotine for Matt Schnell. In the second round, Rogerio Bontorin just getting sick of being jabbed at range in the second and shoots a bad takedown and gets guillotined immediately. Second round submission for Matt Schnell. Moving on to the co-main event. Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. I see the first round starting very interestingly. I think Beneil Dariush is going to land a lot of big shots on Tony Ferguson, and it's going to be looking like Gaethje round 4 pretty quickly, in my opinion. I think there's going to be, or not round 5, not round 4. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, but what we're going to do is this. Beneil Dariush, in my opinion, is going to land big hooks on Tony Ferguson, and I think that's going to really put off Ferguson starting to progress forward from the get-go in the fight. He's going to be a little bit more timid, try and land that front kick to the body. I think when he does try and land those kicks, Beneil Dariush is going to take him down off of them and get into half guard. And I think in the first half of the round, Ferguson's going to be landing more. Dariush is going to be landing bigger. As the second half of the first round comes around, I think Dariush is eventually going to get into half guard on the ground, start landing some total strikes on Ferguson, and win the round based on that. Second round comes around, Ferguson starts real strong, lands some good shots, Dariush lands some good shots back. Dariush gets the takedown, I believe, in the second round as well, and at the second half of the second round, I think he's in half guard on top of Tony Ferguson, landing good total strikes to earn himself the win and the points in the judges' eyes. 10-9, 2 in a row for Beneil Dariush. Then in the third round, Beneil Dariush and Tony Ferguson are going to start scrapping at the start of the round, in my opinion. Both guys landing really big shots this time, and you can start to see Beneil Dariush slowing down a little bit towards the second half of the third round. Then in the second half of the third round, I think Dariush is going to go for his takedown that he has got in rounds 1 and 2 to get him into half guard against Tony Ferguson. I think this time Tony Ferguson like Grundy rolls out of it or sprawls it well and then scrambles his way out of the situation. Beneil Dariush is going to seem defeated after failing that takedown. Get back up, look really tired. Minute 30 on the clock, 2 minutes on the clock. Ferguson starting to walk down Dariush, and maybe Dariush was barely winning the start of the round in the third. Ferguson's going to really start pasting Dariush. People are going to call robbery. It should have been a 10-8, stuff like that. And I think he's really going to beat the hell out of Dariush, but I don't think he's going to do enough for a 10-8 round because I believe Dariush can start to win the start of the third round as well. And I see Ferguson just not doing anything in time. And I think the bell's going to save Dariush in the third round. 10-9 Dariush first, 10-9 Dariush second, 10-9 Ferguson third, and everyone says that he's back in action. Book him a 5-round bout, and we can save his career that way. Moving on up the card, Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. I'm going with Michael Chandler, and there's not really much to break down here. I'm going with Michael Chandler immediately out the trap. First 2 minutes, I think he's going to come out. Here's what's going to happen. Oliveira is going to start with fake momentum changing. He's going to rush at Chandler immediately, and the first strike that Oliveira throws will be a jumping front kick to the face of Chandler. It will miss, but Chandler will back up for a second. But that pressure won't last long for Charles Oliveira, in my opinion. I think then Chandler's going to start feinting his way back in, start backing up Charles Oliveira against the cage, and I think he's going to start faking some takedowns, maybe touching at the legs of Oliveira, popping back up. Couple of body shots then after he's mixed in that fake takedown, starts landing a good jab to the body, a good straight two to the body as well, then maybe one of those front kicks, and I think he's just going to load up a big right hand on Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Edson Barboza style against the cage. Down goes Oliveira. Couple of follow-up shots not needed. Oliveira is done, and Chandler is the new lightweight world champion. I can see him backing up Charles Oliveira against the cage. Oliveira looking to circle out to the left, maybe something like that, to sort of make his escape and get back to the center. That's when Chandler's going to land that big overhand right as Oliveira is circling away from him, and down goes Oliveira. Exactly how Gaethje finished Edson Barboza. Mark my words. So like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. We'll see how I do. I'm risking it all. Click that button up there, please. Goodbye. Toodle pip. Yeah.